On 21st October 2024, 20-year-old Sonia, a resident of New Delhi's Nangloi locality, fled from her home in the early morning hours of 4 am. All she took with her was a suitcase, her ID card, some cash, and a dream of living her best life ahead. But little did she know that this dream will put her in such a deep sleep from which she'll never be able to wake up. In the morning, when her family couldn't find her in the home, they tried calling her, but her phone was switched off. Fearing the worst, they quickly lodged a missing complaint at the local police station. 9 days later, police recovered Sonia's dead body from Rohtak, some 80 kilometers away from her home. But what makes all this even worse is that Sonia was 7 months pregnant. This case will prove that just because one is of younger age doesn't mean that they can't be the worst of the criminals. Now, without any delays, let's dive into the full case study. I am Sam and you are watching Crime Stories by Sam. 20-year-old Sonia was a budding Instagram influencer. For her, Instagram was the only way out of the financial struggles that her family was facing. Basically, she belonged to a low-income family that shifted from Bihar to New Delhi in search for better employment opportunities. Her father ran a small business of animal feeds and her mother worked as a temporary house elf. However, their earnings were too low to make the ends meet. In fact, their situation was so dire that Sonia, who was just 19 at the time, had to drop out of her school. But this didn't stop her from dreaming big. She wanted to buy her own house and considered Instagram as the perfect tool to achieve this goal. Her plan was simple: to consistently upload Instagram reels in hopes of increasing her followers, which in turn will bring in paid brand endorsements. First, she bought a smartphone from whatever little savings she had, and every day after her parents left for work, first she would finish the housekeeping work and then devote rest of her time in making reels. Often she would travel to popular spots like New Delhi's Connaught Place to make videos. On top of that, she even learned sewing and embroidery work to make her own designer clothes for her videos. Slowly, all these efforts started to show up as she garnered over 7,000 followers. But all this was just one side of Sonia. There was another side in her life where a young romance was brewing up. Sonia had a secret boyfriend about whom she often posted on Instagram. But in most of these posts, she purposefully kept his face blurred and tagged him by the nickname Bhoot. Initially, Sonia's family, who were not at all active on social media, had no clue about her boyfriend. But teenage romance is like wildfire, which throws its sparks everywhere. And something similar happened with Sonia too. There were clear visible changes in her behavior, which caught the attention of her mother and elder sister. They were confirmed that Sonia was definitely in a relationship. But whenever they asked about the details of her boyfriend, she only replied that his name is Bhoot. Slowly, she started spending most of her time calling and texting her boyfriend, so much that her Instagram career, about which she was so determined, seemingly took a backseat. Then came August 2024. Sonia's mother Rajni Devi noticed that her daughter isn't going outside as often as she used to and spends most of her time in home. On top of that, she suffered from frequent episodes of illness. Thus, as a preventive measure, she took Sonia for a medical checkup, and when the reports came, everyone was shocked. 20-year-old Sonia was 5 months pregnant. Now, to get a proper understanding of how things got to this point, let's go back to November 2023. That is 8 months before the medical test, when Sonia made this post, which also happens to be the first post about her boyfriend. We can assume that both of them met each other somewhere around this time. In some of her later posts, she revealed his face along with his name as Sanju, who she lovingly gave the nickname Bhoot. Similarly, in some of her other posts, she even tagged him as her husband, indicating that she was madly in love with him. Sanju belonged to Haryana, but lived with his family nearby Sanju's home. Now let's move forward to October 2024, that is 2 months after her medical test. By now, Sonia was 7 months pregnant, and she revealed to her family that Sanju is indeed the father of her baby, and she wants to spend rest of her life with Sanju, as she had already accepted him as her husband. On the other side, Sanju had told Sonia that even though he lives with his family, he has been disowned by them long ago. Now, as the expected date of delivery was nearing, Sonia was getting even more excited for her new life with Sanju. In fact, after a few days, on 20th October 2024, she even observed the Karwa Chauth fast, which is observed by married women in India for the well-being of their husband. It was already difficult for Sonia's parents to see their young little daughter get pregnant before marriage, and now she had started acting like a married woman. Thus, reluctantly, they accepted her and Sanju's relationship. Now, on the next day of Karwa Chauth, that is on 21st October 2024, Sonia packed all her stuff and fled from her home in the early morning hour of 4 am. Before leaving, she told her elder sister that Sanju's parents will never accept her as a daughter-in-law. Therefore, she will start a new life separately with Sanju. An hour later, when Sonia's mom Rajni Devi woke up at 5 pm and found out that Sonia has fled from home, she tried calling her, but her phone was switched off. Few hours later, she again tried calling her, and this time a man picked up the call and identified himself as Sanju, who then told her that Sonia doesn't want to talk to any of them because she hates them all, thus to stop calling and bothering her. Sonia's mom pleaded to let her talk to her daughter for once, but Sanju refused and disconnected the call. Then her phone was switched off again. The same night at around 11 pm, Sonia's brother Manish tried calling her, and surprisingly, Sanju did pick up the call, but he repeated his earlier words. However, during the call, Manish overheard a lot of background noises, as if there were other people with Sanju. On top of that, Manish also heard Sanju replying to someone by saying, "Dig the hole deeper." His heart sank listening to those words. Fearing the worst, they went to Nangloi police station to file a missing complaint, but the police refused to do so because as per them, Sonia was an adult who fled from her home on her own ways. Thus, it doesn't make a criminal case. After this disappointment, the family decided to search Sonia on their own. For a start, they started gathering more information about Sanju, and a day after, they were able to locate his house. But rather than a success, this turned into a huge shocker for them. They found that Sanju, with whom Sonia fled, is not a Hindu, but rather a Muslim, whose real name is Saleem. Saleem's family brushed themselves off by saying that they have disowned Saleem long ago, thus they have nothing to do with him or his actions. After all these revelations, Sonia's family started losing even the little hope they had to see their daughter again. Then, out of nowhere, few days later on 30th October 2024, Manish received a call from Paschim Vihar police station, informing him about a guy whom they have caught while riding a motorcycle without a number plate, and from him they have recovered ID cards of a girl named Sonia. After this call, Manish immediately informed about all this to Nangloi police, who then got the guy transferred from Paschim Vihar police station to Nangloi police station. It was at this moment it got revealed that this guy was none other than Saleem, alias Sanju. However, when the police inquired to him about Sonia, he tried to bluff by saying that she doesn't want to meet or talk to any of her family members. But when the police roughed him up, he quickly started disclosing the truth. As per his statement, on the morning of 21st October 2024, after Sonia fled from her home, Saleem came to pick her up in a rented car. After that, they picked up two of his other friends, Pankaj and Ritik, and four of them started their journey towards Rohtak. On the way, Sonia was constantly nagging Saleem, alias Sanju, to get married, as from the past few months, he was deliberately giving all sorts of excuses to delay the marriage. When they reached the highway connecting Bahadurgarh and Rohtak, their marriage discussions turned into a heated argument, because as per Sonia, she left her everything behind just to spend rest of her life with him, but he wasn't even agreeing to marry her. When Saleem realized that Sonia was adamant about their marriage, he falsely promised to marry her the very next day. After this, things got cooled off, and the four decided to celebrate the upcoming marriage by partying in Rohtak, where Saleem, Pankaj and Ritik got drunk. Thereafter, they started travelling again. After travelling for some 20 kilometers, somewhere near Madina village, Saleem stopped the car. The trio first physically assaulted the 7 months pregnant Sonia, and then strangled her with a mobile phone's charging cable, after which they started digging a grave to bury her body. If you recall, it was the exact same time when Sonia's brother Manish called her and overheard Saleem asking someone to dig deeper. After burying her body, the trio immediately returned to New Delhi to avoid any suspicions. Saleem also revealed that during the initial stages of pregnancy, he asked Sonia to abort the baby, but she was adamant about keeping the baby and marrying him, which forced him to make this plan and finish her off. During the investigation, Police found out that in the photos where Saleem and Sonia were together, he can be seen wearing marks of Hindu religion, like a single steel bangle on his forearm and a red tilak on his forehead. On top of that, he even celebrated Hindu festivals with Sonia. Sonia's neighbor too identified Saleem as the guy who used to visit Sonia's home whenever she was alone. Police also found that on the next day of Sonia's murder, Saleem changed the name of his Instagram ID from ssanju_17 to ssaleem_17. On the similar lines, another striking detail was that till now Saleem has changed his username for a total of 10 times. All these pointed towards the much bigger question of whether Sonia was the first and the only girl to become his victim, or she was just one of many. However, one thing that became very clear is that even though Sonia loved him with all her heart, Saleem was an evil imposter who just wanted to satisfy his sexual cravings through Sonia. Now, after Saleem, the police also caught his other two partners, Pankaj and Ritik. A criminal case is currently ongoing on all of them. However, in a shocking turn of sides, Saleem's family, who initially brushed themselves off by stating that they had disowned Saleem, are now trying very hard to prove his innocence. This indicates that Saleem fabricated the whole story of disownment to prevent Sonia from visiting his house, which in turn would have revealed that Saleem alias Sanju is a Muslim and not a Hindu. This case is a message to all the young girls who, when in love, are ready to sacrifice their everything for their partners. But the important thing here is that the partner should also be worthy enough for your sacrifices. Thus, before falling in love, learn about each and every detail of your to-be partner's background. So it was all about New Delhi's Sonia murder case. Hope this video helps you in keeping you and your loved ones safe. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.